welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today we are 6 days away from Christmas as we continue on with our advent calendar of Christmas horror movies. And today, I'm taking a look at the 2018 movie Christmas Presents, also known by the title of Why Hide, which is currently a Shudder exclusive. And this was a very peculiar one for me. I am actually kind of just going completely off script with this one. I usually have a notes file right here, and I am foregoing that. I am just completely speaking off the cuff about this review because I really struggled with how to approach this. There was a lot about this movie that I wanted to like but didn't. It was just a really peculiar watch. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is this has to be broken down into two areas. One is the characters and the other is the horror elements of it. And pretty much what we have in this movie is a group of friends basically meet up for the holidays at a B&B kind of rental house, an Airbnb kind of situation out in the middle of the woods. And they get their party on, they celebrate and make merry with the festivities, and they catch up with one another. You can tell that they've been friends for a while. Some of them are just more acquaintances with one another, but regardless, like I said, they make merry, they party, and then, Christmas happens, and then things start going sideways. Things start going kind of higgledy-piggledy in a weird, ill-defined manner, and their friendship is kind of put to the test. Now, the character aspect of this one is honestly one of the parts about this movie that I liked the least going into it. A lot of the characters in here were, I don't know if it was the writing of the dialogue or the direction of the actors. I don't think it was necessarily the actors' performances of their characters, but each and every one of them had their own little niche, and they were so over the top within that niche that it seemed like they just stepped over the line from character into caricature. And as a result, especially in the personality traits that one might find ordinarily irritating in somebody, taking to that nth degree was extraordinarily irritating, and then watching them bounce off of each other. And this movie takes a long while to get to the horror aspect. Most of this movie is just the characters talking to one another, interacting with one another, telling their story, going on with things, and like I said, partying and making merry. So, as far as how the characters are set up, and considering they take up so much of the screen time, this was a difficult one for me to get absorbed into. Now, the second part I wanted to talk about was the horror aspect of it. Now, I'm not going to get into any kind of spoilers or anything, but the one thing I did like is that this employed a lot of subterfuge, and whether it was purposeful or on accident, one could debate endlessly. I think ultimately it would have to kind of come down to an engagement with the director or the writer and, trusting what they say on that one. But regardless, they put a lot out there in terms of what could be going on. And like I said, what is actually, even what we're presented with on the screen is fairly ill-defined. One character appears to be dead, but then another character sees them alive and in trouble, and there's, tension going on. So, there's a lot of mystery in terms of I say that a lot in my horror reviews, that one of the good concepts of horror is always that at the core of it is a mystery. And in this one, we're even trying to figure out the what is going on. What kind of danger are they in? What is actually happening? It's very confusing. It's very ambiguous. And then from there, we still have yet to figure out who, why, how, the whole bit. And this throws a lot at us in terms of red herrings and, like I said, subterfuge. It employs some stir of echoes kind of hypnosis gone wrong elements. It employs some paranoia. It employs some childhood trauma. It employs some potentially supernatural themes. And it just kind of all rolls up into this ball of it could be anything. And one thing that I like is that kept me on my toes as far as trying to figure out what was going on. So the mystery element of it, once things really started kicking off, actually grabbed me. And I think on a technical level, with some of the effects that were employed, it pulled it off fairly well. The problem that I had was, in all of this, what could it possibly be, when we find out what it possibly was, it's very unsatisfying. I think one of the big problems is by having so much in the mix and so much false, information and red herrings and so forth. Ultimately, what happens is we, as the audience, what we theorize could possibly be going on might, and in my case was, more interesting than the actual outcome. And that's kind of a danger you risk by having this level of ambiguity. And I think that ultimately they kind of got caught in their own trap as far as the filmmakers of this movie goes with that. Coupled with the fact that I thought the characters were very poorly developed, poorly written. The dialogue was absolutely terrible. And like I said, the character traits went over and above to the point of absolutely just irritating as all get out. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up all the scores here. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot of this one, it really just wasn't anything I could get behind. Between how long it took to actually get to any kind of supernatural elements, and then once we moved past the mystery and we got to the reveal, it was ultimately unsatisfying. And the way that the characters were established, just the written script, as it might have been, just left me very unimpressed. And that shows in the intention as well. The acting, I thought, was halfway decent. I would say it's kind of mid-range. Out of 25 points, 13, halfway mid-range there. Some of the performances were okay. Even going so far as when they got pretty emotionally challenging was actually fairly impressive. But, ultimately just kind of wound up in a place of average. And again, I really don't think it was the actors' performances that took the characters to the level of, where I found them intolerable. I think that was more the way the dialogue was written and the way the direction was established. And the technical, this was fairly competently shot. This had a very kind of professional look and feel to it. Some of the effects worked pretty well, like I said. Ultimately, it wasn't anything mind-blowing. But I think that was definitely the high earner of this one. So a score of 44 out of 100 points. And honestly, I would not say that I recommend this movie. I won't dissuade anybody from watching it. If you see it on your list, you happen to be a fan of this particular actor or director, go for it, I guess. I'm not going to talk anybody out of it, but I also can't say that if somebody's looking for a good Christmas horror movie, that this one would be a recommendation for me, because it just isn't. So that should about do it. That's my review of 2018's Christmas presents. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. And if you want to support me further, my Patreon and my merchandise storefront links are below. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.